Good morning all. Is my voice audible to you all? Please raise your hand. Am I audible to you all? Please raise your hand. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Now last class, which means the day before yesterday, we saw these many things. Starting from installation of testng, created a project. We referenced some library files. Okay. Had the code exported from Selenium IDE, copied it to the Java file. Okay, and then we saw what are annotations. Okay, what exactly annotations are, and how to work with annotations like at before class, at before method, at test. So after studying annotations, we saw how to execute the Java program as a testng test. And then we studied console output and the result file. Okay, there was a result file which was created automatically in the test-output directory. Okay, it gets created every time whenever we execute the test case by testng. You all know that testng is an unit testing framework. Ng is for next generation. It was inspired from JUnit framework. Okay, and it has multiple added components. It is a way more improved version of JUnit. And in the last part of our class, we started talking about testng.xml. Okay, we executed a program, we opened the result file, and we studied the result file. When we do that, we saw something called testng.xml. Let me open the result file. Okay, let me open our result file which was generated for the last run. I'm getting into my test-output directory of my first project, and I'm opening index.html. See, all these files are automatically created by Selenium. I'm sorry, testng. Now this was the result file. Okay, I'm seeing something called testng-eclipse some number, and then testng custom suite.xml. So I told you that it creates an XML document internally and executes our test cases. Okay, so testng by default it requires an XML document. If we did not have any, okay, you all know that we did not have anything. So we did not have any XML document, so it was created by the testng framework automatically, and it is being executed. Fine. Now our first learning is how we are going to create a testng document ourselves. Okay, testng.xml document ourselves. For that I need to get into my Eclipse. So I'm opening my Eclipse right now. Okay, everything I have in this same folder, so I do not want to move out for anything. So this is the default workspace which I have configured. Okay, how many of you tried working with testng yesterday? Okay, installing testng, configuring testng. How many of you have tried? Okay. Okay. Good. So we created two programs till last class, bookstore.java and searchandclick.java. Do not worry about these two things, these two additional Java files, which we will see in an hour. Okay. So now we open the Eclipse to create an XML document. We wanted an XML document for ourselves. Okay. Through that we can configure our own tests. So let me right click on the project name. Let me right click on the project name and say new. Okay, and click on file. I'm creating a new file under the root folder of my project. I'm naming it as testng.xml. Okay, I'm naming it as testng.xml and then directly clicking on finish. The moment I say finish, you may notice a file has been added to my project tree. Okay, so it has also been opened in the work area testng.xml. Here I have two tabs, design and source. I do not want to work with design. I need to type my code manually, so I'm going to click on source. Okay, the idea behind this task is to have a testng.xml document for ourselves, okay, to enhance our way of executing the scripts. Okay, follow me carefully. The idea behind this is to have a testng document for testng.xml document for ourselves, which means we need to configure our own tests. We can say how testng needs to execute all our test cases. Now I'm going to start typing in this document. Okay, do not worry about these things because these are actually format. Let me say a mere syntax for creating XML document. The first line. Almost all the uh, XML documents you see will have this. So I'm starting to create my own XML document. Now here starts from the second line. I'm saying something like suite name is equal to my first test suite. Okay, and then I'll say okay, let me limit it like that. I'll restrict myself to have the suite name. Now I am going to type more XML tags. More XML tags right now. Test name is equal to, as this is an open source framework, we require to have all these things in place. Like whenever you want to develop an XML document, you should be able to do so. Now let me say test name is equal to, inside the quotes, my first test. Okay, close the tag, enter. Inside this I'm going to say classes. So inside classes I'll refer something as class name is equal to package1 dot bookstore. This may seem a little identical to you because package1.bookstore is the Java file which we have been executing for the last 2 days. 2 days of class we have been trying to execute the program bookstore.java. Fine. Now class is complete. Okay. Inside this testng.xml, I am naming only the class name bookstore. Okay, bookstore must be executed. Okay. Now, I mean this will not be I mean greater transition from what we do from right click and execute this program and right click and execute this XML document. But in a while after this, you will understand why this XML was created. Now let me right click this. See the difference. I am going to right click my testng.xml document and then I am going to execute it. I do not require to right click on bookstore.java and execute. I can have this. Okay, I can have this executed testng.xml document only. Before executing a testng using Selenium RC, you must have the standalone server up and running. So I am navigating to my directory where I have Selenium server standalone. Okay, this needs to be started. Java-jar space Selenium-server standalone. Okay, this needs to be started. Now the server has been started and it is up and running. Let me go back to my Eclipse. So what we were trying was, we were trying to execute testng.xml document, right click and say run as, okay, and then go to testng suite. Execute this XML document as a testng suite. Let me click on that. It is being executed. Fire is getting open. See, there is a great transition now. Whatever we have tried for the last class, like we always try to execute our Java files by right clicking on it, but right now we have a separate configuration file in place through which we are able to access our tests. Okay, this is what we learn right now, having a configuration file in place through which we execute our tests. Now let it complete and we will do a bit more in our testng.xml learning. Okay, it is going to take a while because there are two test cases inside this program, as I remember, one advanced search and one simple search, I think. Okay, no problem, let it execute. So right now, today created an XML document and named it as testng.xml. Okay, this will act as a configuration file through which testng reads what are the test cases which needs to be executed. Do not worry about these programs. I'll try to have this Java workspace as a backup. Now it is done. Now the test has been executed and this is the console output. This is the console output. See, there is a difference here because whatever we received last time was a bit longer. There were more statistics which were generated, but right now it is very brief. Okay, for testng.xml, this is how you get the statistics. It says total executed run is 2 and there are no failures and there are no skips. Fine. If it is also brief and I'm able to get all my details, so this works fine for me. Now the next step. Now the next step is I want to have more test cases into this testng.xml document. I want to have more test cases or more program. Let me say like that. So now watch me carefully. What I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this fifth line and paste it again, and I'm going to modify this package1.bookstore to package1.search and click. Okay, let me have indentation in place. In Eclipse it is very easy to have an indentation. I'll right click and say source, or let me say toggle command, control plus I would do. See, so if you want to have indentation in place, which means all the tags should be arranged so that you can understand it very clearly, you can just right click your piece of code and say source and say format active elements, or you can just select your code and go for the keyboard shortcut control plus I. Fine. Save. Now there are two classes. Now let us see how this is going to be executed. Okay, so step by step we are going to study this. Let me right click and say run as and say testng suite. It is getting started. Now there are two Java programs which needs to be executed. In turn, three test cases will be executed, because search and click.java, which we have just included in the XML document, has only one test in place, if I remember correctly. The test cases are being executed. Remember, we are right clicking on the XML document directly and we are executing it. We are not going for any Java file to execute. Having everything in one place and execute it. This helps us when we have a large automation testing framework in place. Okay, when we have multiple test cases to be executed, this helps a lot. Now it says that all the test cases has been executed. Okay, I'm sorry. For the second program it starts again. No worries. This is how it does. As we have included two class files, there is a second run which is happening for search and click. So let me come back to my notes and say, see, when the test is also running, and I am going to use Notepad also. Multitasking when an automation test runs. Right? This is good now. Add one more class file into the XML document. I'm going to console to study what happened. I'm getting into console to see what happened. It says 3 test cases were run. 3 tests were executed. There are no failures and no skips. Good. Which means whatever I'm doing right now, I'm doing it correctly. Now if I want to see what was the XML document which was used, you can see this name directly, whatever we have created. Okay, before that you may remember it was some text name with an automatically generated number, which means testng creates it automatically and names it and then executes the test case. But right now, as we have an explicit configuration files, so it gets executed. It says that I am running this testng.xml document. Fine. Now let us do one more thing. Before that, let us see what was the result which was generated. We all know that testng will create results whenever we execute something. Let me get into my project directory and see what was the result which was generated. So index.xml document, I'm opening it. Okay, allow blocked content. Do you see this? Do you see this document? It directly gets whatever I have included there, and it names that also testng.xml document where exactly it is located. So we are on the right path. So it says 3 methods were executed and 3 were passed. I'm going to click on show. Okay, so 3 methods, one belongs to search and click class file, the other two belongs to bookstore class file. If I go to times, it arranges all the test cases and puts the time it took for execution. Okay, good. This looks good. Is this clear? Can we proceed to the next step? Having an XML configuration file in place. Good, good. Having an XML configuration in place and executing our tests from that document. Is this clear? Can you raise your hand, please? The only way of communication is raising your hand and letting me know that it is clear. Good, good. Thanks for your response. Good, thanks. It may seem a bit little complex, but do not worry about that. Only by practice you can get it up and running. Practice, practice a lot. Okay, now we are in the next step of learning. Now I'm going to say I'm going to add a parameter. I'm going to add a parameter in the first line. I'm going to name it as parallel. Okay, that is not second line, it should be second. I'm sorry, it is not going to be in first line, it should be in second line. Parallel is equal to tests. Okay, control yes. I have just saved it. I have added one more parameter called parallel in my XML document. Now let us see what it gets me. One more parameter added to the suite name. Okay, right click, say run as, and then say testng. Get started. It is getting started. Now we need to see what kind of difference it makes. Okay, right now till now I do not see anything as a difference because same window gets opened and only one Firefox is running. Okay, let me wait. Let this be done and then we will make necessary changes in the configuration file. It is still running. I'm referring my old testng.xml document. Okay, everything is given as fine. Okay, now let us add one more parameter to it. I'm going to add, test is still running, but although I'm editing it, I'm going to add something called thread-count is equal to 20. This is the number of process which testng can initiate whenever it tries to execute our programs. Okay, I'm just giving a thread count here. through which the number of processes which are created can be enhanced, can be increased. Okay. Is it done or what? It's still running. Okay. So it says there were 1 failures. The last test we executed was 1 failure. So what was the failure? Let me see if there is anything in my result file. See, that error which we usually get when the server times out. Okay, you all have an idea about this error, because this is what the error which we get more frequently from examples.codecharge.com. It says timed out after 30,000 milliseconds. That error which we used to get in console itself is now being transported to HTML result file. Okay, without the execution, without the uh, presence of XML document, we always get our results in console. But right now console has very brief statistics, and all the other things are being moved to my HTML document. I mean, this is good because I do not want to go to console to refer everything. I can open this HTML document and see everything more clearly, because it has compartmentalization and highlighting also. Okay, this makes my result look good. Fine. Now let us close the test and let us see what this thread count can do to our execution pattern. We just added one more parameter called thread-count. Let me right click this testng.xml and say run as testng suite. Let me see what kind of difference it makes. There is no difference. Let us move to the next concept, because I don't want to waste now. Okay, still a single Firefox window. Good. Okay. Not a problem. We will try to use this same XML document in for WebDriver. Okay. In a few moments we will be into WebDriver. So we will use the same XML document there also to see what impact it makes in execution. In execution, I wanted to see multiple windows parallelly running. That is what my idea was, to have multiple windows running and executing test cases through by minimizing my execution time. So that is not happening now. Let us try the same thing with WebDriver. Okay, so we created an XML document. The execution is in progress. There is one more thing called grouping. Okay, there is one more thing in Selenium RC which we can do is grouping. Grouping the test cases, which means having a group name and executing our test cases based on that. Okay. So to have my group in place, I'll start naming everything. I am naming this first test as is equal to, these are all syntax. Okay, syntax. uh, I'll say regression tests. Okay, I just added a group name and typing the same group name to all my test cases regardless of whatever the Java file it is in. There are two test cases in my first Java file and I am copying it to the second Java file also where there is only one test case. I'm pasting it right here